name's Dr Adam Perchard, and Bathtime For Britain came about because of the nightmare that was COVID. So I was just, I was living in the UK at the time. My career was sort of going to a good place. I was waiting actually for a taxi to come and get me, to take me on a tour of the west coast of America at 5 a.m. And then the phone rang and the whole thing had been called off because of COVID. And then the phone kept ringing. Loads of performers had this. All of our gigs cancelled one after the other. And my mum said, look, you better get back to Jersey now before they close the borders. So I went back. I left my flat in London, left all of my feathers and my cloaks, and went back to this tiny little island that I'd grown up on. And Dad was in his 80s and vulnerable. So we just shut the doors to our lonely farmhouse. And it was just me and Mum and Dad and our dog Cleo for about 18 months. And so I walked into my bathroom, my childhood bathroom, where as a teenager, I used to sing in front of the mirror and imagine I had a stage career. I walked in there, everything had faded away, and I started to sing, and I started making videos of myself, putting them online, and people started getting into them, and people in Jersey actually started getting particularly into them. So suddenly there was this kind of island-wide digital community of people that were really into this weird queer performance art I was making in my bathroom. And the local art centre, the Jersey Art Centre, saw it and said, God, we've got to do a live show of this. And so weirdly, that whole big disaster of COVID led to this live show happening. And so I did it at the Jersey Art Centre. It was wonderful. And then now it's on a big tour of the United Kingdom to all of these wonderful theatres. And it's like I've sort of stepped through that bathroom mirror that I spent all those hours in front of as a teenager, and back into this world. It's my first solo tour. It's my first real big solo show. So all my dreams came true in a little bathroom on a tiny island during COVID.
Yeah, and as you kind of just mentioned, obviously the impact of kind of social media there, is that kind of like, especially with COVID and being, like you say, kind of lost all your work and kind of stuck in a place in Jersey, kind of, does that kind of had that positive impact for you?
Yeah, it's been amazing. Well, because basically the government told people like us that we should give up, that we should retrain. And so I flounced off into my bathroom, threw on a cloak and spent the lockdown prancing around. But because of wonderful people online on social media, and the fact that they still wanted art, even ridiculous bathroom art, they're what kept me going. They're the people that have made this whole thing happen. And it's wonderful because as I travel around, I meet people for the first time, people that got caught up in the whole Bathtime For Britain thing, people who I've been chatting to online, who've been commenting on all of my weirdnesses. And we get to have drinks in the theatre bar after the show. And it's this really beautiful sort of, all of these online connections have suddenly become real, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of almost opens the world up that you may not have been able to do, like obviously when you just get off performing like you generally would be. I guess it's kind of helped in that way, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my iPhone, do you want to see this is my little ancient iPhone. Yeah. This was the window through which I reached the world. It was given to me by a friend of my parents who was in the 70s who felt sorry for me because my existing phone was worse. Yeah. But that tiny little, geeky people get excited about it at parties because they're like, wow, I've never seen one of these. That became my window. It became my little proscenium arch for my theatre. And I've loved it. I loved it, but I do have to say the rush of being back in real physical theatres is just amazing. I mean, my God. And I think still, even though lockdown's been over for a while now, there's still a real sense of, from the audience too, of like, oh my God, we found each other again. We're here. And there's a real kind of electric atmosphere in the theatre, I find, wherever I go.
Yeah, and obviously in the show you feature kind of some big artists, shall we say, David Bowie, Kate Bush, Queen, Whitney Houston, and so on. How do you then go about selecting which artists you're going to feature?
Well, it's a tricky one. I mean, basically, all of the songs in the show came from videos that I made, songs that I sang in the bathroom. And so some of those were requests from punters, and some of them were just things that I really loved. And I mean, I share quite a similar music taste with a lot of the people that like the videos.
Yeah.
So I love a big, so I started out as a singer in opera. And I love a great, big, huge, dramatic, fabulous musical moment. And also, there's a certain amount of campness, you'll be astonished to hear.
Yeah.
And so all of these artists share that kind of, Whitney, Queen, Bowie, Bush, Cyndi Lauper, all of them have that kind of balls to the wall.
Yeah.
This is theatre, here I come, baby. But they're all also really, I wanted them all to be well known because it's like, I describe the show as a coming out party, basically. It's a coming out party for everyone. It's a big celebration of the fact that we've all escaped from whatever it was, whatever version of the bathroom we were trapped in during COVID. And so, people can sing along, people can dance. There's a whole, by the end of it, everyone's like rocking around in the aisles. And it just becomes the celebration for all of us. Although there are some quite weird performance art moments. There's a beautiful, I dance, it's very moving. I do a dance with a giant melting green cake at one point, which then eats me. So it's accessible, but it's not without its WTF moments.
The best one sometimes. But I guess kind of like you just said, it's kind of that, not to make the corny phrase, that's the show we all need right now kind of thing, but I guess kind of like...
It is the show we all need right now.
There you go. But kind of has that been, as you've also mentioned, you've kind of felt that as a performer, kind of being out there, kind of doing it again?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like this lovely... it's I can feel the word rebirth rising up my esophagus, and that also feels quite corny, but it feels true because it's not exactly going back to how we were before, because we were all changed by this. Do you know what I mean? And so the show is very joyous and juicy and ridiculous, but also it does think a bit about, what I went through and what we all went through. So this, I think it's all the more joyful because it's not just a return to the way things were, but it's a return to the big wide world, having been through this harrowing global experience. So I think we've all emerged wiser and more ready to party, which, hurrah for that. And in the show, obviously, you've got, as it's described, Liberace level costumes. Are these all kind of made by yourself, or are they kind of... They're made by me, but also by my mum, Liz Perchard. She's brilliant. So my parents are so great. They're well, Dad's in his 80s, Mum's getting there. And we were all locked away together, and they've always been incredibly supportive. They actually got involved in some of the videos. The video that changed, the game changer, the one that the Jersey Arts Centre saw, was me dressed as Elizabeth I in a costume made of bubble wrap, singing I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles, with my parents wearing giant bishop's hats made of bubble wrap, Dad was sitting on the loo, Mum was like really stonily faced, blowing bubbles into camera, and the dog was involved too. So they've been a part of it right from the word go. And Mum's a gorgeous, she's a proper dressmaker. She likes to have a pattern, she likes to have a plan, whereas I, come at it like a blackbird trapped in a conservatory. I'm like, pow, let's have some spikes. I want a big spiked metallic turquoise Mr. Darcy jacket with like a Mohican of spikes and a riding helmet. And she makes it happen. It's beautiful. And yes, otherwise it's been me gluing. I think I got something like 400,000 crystals arrived for me from China. So there's been many a hot glue moment has got into the making of this show.
I bet. And obviously, I know we've already kind of mentioned it as the show we need for now, but what would you want an audience to take away from seeing the show?
I think I'd like them to go away feeling proud of themselves for making it through. I mean, that's one of the big themes of it, the fact that we've all been through this nightmare, but we're all still here. I also talk a little bit about, whilst I was in the bathroom, I realized that I'm non-binary. And that was quite a big realization for me. It's a subtle little theme going through the show, but maybe I would like them to leave with a feeling of open-heartedness and a feeling of understanding, because it's a bloody weird bathroom, my bathroom, but amongst all of the madness and the cakes and the swing dances and the leaf blowers, there's this kind of really common thread of humanity of what all of us have been through. So I like the idea that it celebrates difference, but it also dissolves difference in a way.
Yeah, amazing. If you were going to, though, have dinner with one of the artists you feature in the show, which artist would you pick to have dinner with?
Oh God, that's difficult. I mean, because I would really like to sleep with Freddie Mercury. So I mean, yeah, I think it would have to be. I reckon I'd have a massive laugh with Kate Bush. Love her.
Yeah.
But I think I would have to. I think David Bowie I'd be a bit too shy of. But I reckon Freddie Mercury, a sexy meal with Freddie Mercury. I mean, God help me, that would be perfect.
It would be grand. Only if you film it, though. You have to. That's another one you have to film. You see?
Saucy. Okay. You can you can get the scoop. Me and Flagrante Delicto with dead old Freddie Mercury. It'd be beautiful.
Why not? But if you were going to have to describe the show in 3 words, how would you describe it?
Oh, God. Bombastic, joyful, and life affirming, I would say.
Yeah, strong choices.
Thank you.
I have some more kind of general questions I ask all my interviewees. These are more just about you. The first one being, what was the first piece of theatre that you can remember seeing in your life?
I think it was an adaptation of Mill on the Floss that I saw in India. I grew up in India. And it was this very dramatic, stark piece with 3 women doing it. And I was much too young to really understand what was going on, but I just fell madly, madly in love with it, and then met the actresses afterwards and couldn't leave them alone. Yeah,
that's the best way. And do you have a kind of favourite theatre you've either performed at or visited?
I mean, I performed at the. I mean, does every artist immediately go for the blow their own trumpet moment? I performed at the London Coliseum, the biggest theatre in London, which was incredible. It's also the place that I had first seen. I saw my first operas there because it's the home of the ENO. And so that moment, from being there as a child, watching these operas with my parents, to then walking on stage as something approaching an adult, getting to sing on that stage was breathtaking and bloody terrifying because it's massive. I mean, it's like looking out over the rolling savannas or something. It's just people, something like 6,000 people or something. It's nuts, but it's beautiful.
It's an amazing theatre. But if you weren't in theatre and performing, what do you think you'd be doing with your life?
I mean, I'd possibly be some kind of gorgeous, overblown backstreet hooker. I don't know. I kind of already am. I mean, I love writing. So I mean, it's sort of a cheat. But I also, over lockdown, I wrote a novel, and I loved that because I've always lived in worlds of my own creation. Basically, I think a lot of queer people do, and it was beautiful to sort of make that formal, to create a world that other people can step into. So watch that space.
Yeah, so that's not out yet, is it? Is that going to come out?
It's not out. I've got an agent and we're working on the second draft of it at the moment.
Cool. So, keep an eye on your socials, I presume, for that.
That's it.
There you go. But who in your life are your biggest inspirations?
Oh my goodness. I mean, my immediate thoughts were Elizabeth I, Maria Callas, and my dogs. Yeah. I spent quite a lot of time dressed as Elizabeth I when I was a child. I really loved her, looking back, her like crazy punk drag aesthetic. Yeah. And I loved the thought of her being sort of masked in this amazing white lead, this sort of slowly shimmying away from humanity and into a kind of the embodiment of a symbol. But dogs, I've been raised by a series of boxer dogs, these big butch female boxer dogs who, you know, I've always sat down to pee. They've always stood up and lifted a leg. And whilst I was a little weird child, you know, and didn't always have that many friends, I always had these big velvety jowled butch canine friends that looked after me and just loved me. And I would love to be more like a boxer dog. Basically, I think they're pretty sensational.
Yeah. Here's the deeper question I ask everyone. Simply, what does theatre mean to you?
I think it's a safe. The stage is a sort of safe space for me. It's weird to say that because it's a safe space, but it's also a radically unsafe space. You know, you're always terrified that it's gonna go horribly wrong. But it's the place. The theatre is the place when all of the clamour of life, all of the storms, all of the self-doubt, all of, you know, the hatred, the oppression that's out there, everything can fade away. When it goes right, everything fades away and it's just you, and you're so much yourself that you're hardly even there in a way. And it's just you and the audience in this perfect moment together. And that's the thing that I chase. That's the thing I love.
Yes, brilliantly answered. My final question for you today is the simple one of sell the show. Why should anyone come and see Bathtime for Britain?
Well, anyone who's been through a global pandemic, I don't know if many people have done that recently, but anyone who has should definitely come and see the show. First of all, I mean, if you are a gorgeous, fruity, queer, gender experimenting, you know, art spirit like myself, it's the show for you. If you are just a gorgeous, you know, completely heterosexual, beautiful soul who wants a big party night out, it's for you. If you are a confused librarian who's 60 years old and keeps kittens in the sleeves of her cardigan, it's the show for you. It's the show for everybody, basically. It goes, it's a sort of journey through my imagination, and it picks up, you know, if there are moments of real introspection and thought in it, but there are also just great big balls to the wall moments of party explosions. So I think it's got everything. And I just can't wait to see everybody there, basically. And I'll buy everyone some pork scratchings in the bar afterwards.
I'm going to hold you to that. I'll hold you to that. But that wraps up brilliantly, Dr. Adam. If anyone wants to come and see it, you're in, I'm going to list them all here: Brighton, Guernsey, Winchester, Aberystwyth, Huddersfield, and Liverpool. Across that runs till March, the last one. I don't know if there's any more being added or anything.
There are some more coming up. There are some exciting London dates, but we have not released them yet. So Just follow me on social media, Dr Adam Perchard, and all will be revealed, babies.
Amazing. I will link everything in the boxes wherever they are below on the side. I don't know. I never know. But Dr. Adam, thank you very much for your time. It sounds amazing. You've been a joy to talk to. So
Bless you. So have you.